Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. Targeting series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically this instance a follow-up to the Heber Multisystem 2 review that I ran about 2 weeks ago. Because in that video I let you guys ask whatever questions you want that I could answer in a follow-up, and that's exactly what we're doing today. But the number one question everyone asked that I will get out of the way very early in the video is, in my testing, did it just act as a MiSTer FPGA? And it did, because it is just a MiSTer FPGA. All of the cores I've tested, all of the games I've played have acted exactly like they would on any other system. I captured some footage, but I'm not even putting it in the video because it's identical. There is no difference between these two items. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's move over to the most common question outside of what does it do as a MiSTer FPGA, and that was people wondering, can they use their existing snack adapters with the Multisystem 2? Now, I brought this question directly to Richard from Heber, talking about the potential of a cart that just plugs in and terminates to something that you could plug in your existing snack adapters to. He gave me 5 different options: building things, putting out the PCB so others can build them, but on a technical standpoint you could pass that through into one of these cart ports. It doesn't exist yet, but it's 100% doable, and he talked about different options, whether without level shifting, including making them and selling them from Heber, or going ahead and letting the community do it. And I absolutely love that, because this project is very community minded, as is everything else on MiSTer FPGA. You're going to be able to design add-on boards yourself if you so want to do so. You're going to be able to purchase them if you just want to be done with it and plug something in, but at least from a technical level, yes, it would be possible. There still needs to be some boards made, some designs figured out, but on a technical basis, you could pass through those snack adapters into a cart, into the custom port on the Multisystem 2, and that is just absolutely spectacular, because again, open source community minded developments on projects like this are absolutely essential. It'll allow the community to come in and make things, or for Heber to do it themselves, but at least on a pinout and technical level, we know that that is 100% possible. And again, I totally get it. If you got a bunch of snack adapters sitting around like I do, it might be one of those things you just want to reuse some of your original hardware. There's so many different vendors of these things. This is MiSTer Add-on Snack and Snacks adapters right here. So having those available to you would be fun, just to be able to go ahead and utilize all those original controllers, because we basically have snack adapters for almost every single system that can support them on MiSTer FPGA. And I totally understand why people were curious. I think it was down to the fact that they saw a USB port on the Super Nintendo snack adapter from Heber themselves. So I would love to see where this goes in the future, so leave me a comment down below, because I'm sure Heber will be reading these. Would you like them to sell something that exists like this? Would you like them to just publish some sort of open source schematic so that the community can build it? I know the company goes through these comments. I've been chatting with Richard in the background, so tell them what you'd like to see, and I'm sure maybe in the future you might exactly get what it is you want. Because if you take a look inside of this adapter, you'll see SNES Snack, and it says gray just because of the case design. And if we flip it over, and this is why most people thought about this in the first place, you will see that there is a port on the right hand side, so it would be some sort of functionality that you could implement. And again, if you're not into snack adapters, definitely you should get into them. Using the original controllers with cores is a ton of fun. Just remember, you can't control the on-screen display with snack. You got to do that separately. But I do love how these cards work, because again, the user I/O port on a MiSTer FPGA is USB shaped, and I know a couple people out there plugged in the wrong things and had a very bad time, so I do love the custom connector on the Multisystem 2. Now let's move over to the next most common question. Can it ever run as a dual RAM build? This is a single RAM MiSTer FPGA setup, but I kind of want to dispel the rumors, or kind of give you better information about exactly what functions on dual RAM on MiSTer FPGA, which is to say barely anything whatsoever, and it also runs on single RAM setups as well, because you will see here you have those 2 Alliance memory chips up top. Now MiSTer FPGA can function as a dual RAM build. I've shown it built on camera before, but it is one of those situations. I'd probably say like 98% of all MiSTer installations I know of from the comments are running single RAM. But tell me down below, if you already have a MiSTer, are you on single RAM or dual RAM? Now, of course, this has 128 megabytes of RAM. That's what we need, and that's what Heber has provided here. So you're going to be able to run every single game on every single core, including the biggest Neo Geo games. So it has 100% compatibility. Now, the 2 cores that are going to function with dual RAM, the first one is going to be the work in progress Atari Jaguar core. but do be aware that there's also a single RAM core variant as well, and in my testing between single and dual RAM, I can't really figure out what the difference is. Everything seems to run at the same speed for me personally, and again, Atari Jaguar is not the most coveted core in MiSTer FPGA. Not to knock the hardware, but it's one of those things that just doesn't have the same appeal as the next core that also has a dual RAM build. But in all of my testing between single and dual RAM, I really haven't noticed any difference on Jaguar that I can actually point to. Now there's also a dual RAM Sega Saturn and Sega Titan video core, but there's like 3 games that run slightly slower on single RAM, and SRG 320 has basically put in a turbo mode, for lack of a better term, on the single RAM core as well, getting those like 99% as fast. So honestly, it's perfectly fine that it's a single RAM build as far as the Multisystem 2 is concerned. I have both single and dual RAM builds, and I interchange them in my testing all the time. It really doesn't matter whatsoever, so don't think that you need a dual RAM build. There are no cores in development that aren't targeting single RAM, and I haven't seen any other cores mentioned that would require it, so you should be totally fine. And I get that Sega Saturn way more popular than something like the Atari Jaguar, but I commonly play the Saturn core on my television just for fun on a single RAM MiSTer FPGA build, and I've had absolutely zero problems with it, and you'll have the exact same result. Now let's move over to the next question. Can you have snack and S-video or composite video at the same time? Because people recognize that that user port in the front had that custard cartridge that allowed for composite and S-video out, but that's also the same port that you're going to use snack in. And I totally get that this is a very specific use case, using both S-video or composite and snack at the same time, but it can be done with different active adapters, and I will show you how to do that. This port in the back is going to do RGB SCART out, and then you're going to have that VGA port that's going to do RGB as well as component if you want it to. But if you're one of the people that only has a CRT television with composite or S-video on the back of it, this will work for you. Now do be aware that the core has to support YC. It's not a universal feature on something like MiSTer FPGA. The core has to implement it. And if we take a look here, this is that custard cartridge. It's in black, just not yellow in this instance, and this is what you would use to get the video out from something like the Multisystem 2. And again, great design having that point towards the back so it's going towards your television. But of course this occupies that user port, so now you technically couldn't plug in any of your snack adapters and be able to use them at the same time. But the good news is there's parts that are going to allow you to do this. MiSTer Add-ons has the MiSTer FPGA YC active encoder board that will take the signal out of the VGA port and allow you to have S-video or something like composite if you so want it. Now I do have one of these boards. It is, I believe, a prototype because it's not in a case, but I went ahead and hooked it up, tested it, and everything worked perfectly fine on my PVM. Now I wouldn't really use composite or S-video because I have the ability for RGB, but it's one of those things that just worked. And following up to that question, people also asked about light gun support on Multisystem 2. I tested it. It does exactly the same thing that any other MiSTer FPGA build would do. And you'll see here that uncased YC encoder board. You're going to be able to go in via that VGA port, and you can just get the signals out either composite or S-video. And if you do want to use something like a GunCon or GunCon 2, you have that tap there as well. But if you just want to use something like a GunCon 2, you can go ahead and tap the composite signal off of the actual custard board and use it that way. And if you're using anything like RGB video, there's also taps available for MiSTer Add-ons to just let you get that sync signal so that your GunCon or GunCon 2 will work. I will leave links in the description for all of these parts, but if you want to have S-video or composite video and use the snack port at the same time, you can do it with one of these active encoders. And if you want to use a GunCon or GunCon 2, you're going to be totally fine to be able to do that as well, thankfully. Now moving over to the next question, I got a lot of what are the mem test results, and if you're not aware, MiSTer FPGA has a memory testing utility that gives you the scores of how your RAM runs. I had every single result between 145 and 150 megahertz, which is to say this RAM is plenty fast for any functionality that you can throw at it when it comes to MiSTer FPGA. It's an excellent result, and I had no issues with it whatsoever. And again, just to be clear, 128 megabytes of RAM is going to allow you to run everything you want on MiSTer FPGA. I believe the largest files you're ever going to be loading into it are going to be stuff like the Neo Geo games, because they can get quite big in size, but this ran everything I needed it to. And again, I can't stress enough on the performance front, it is just MiSTer FPGA as a custom designed PCB, so you're 100% good to go anytime you want. And the last question I had, how much case flex is there, because it is 3D printed? And while I can't really measure flex, there is no good instrument I have to measure it. I will tell you this right now, it doesn't flex much whatsoever, and if you're concerned about the case breaking or cracking, you'd have to get sex crazy and Hulk strong on this thing to even do any damage. If you break this case, you dropped it, one of your kids grabbed it or smashed it. The 3D printing quality is nice, and the files will be out at some point in the future, so if you want to do a resin case for yourself, you're going to be able to do that. But rest assured that there's no way in hell you're going to do any damage to this case unless you just pick it up and throw it across the room like a frisbee, unless your dog gets a hold of it, unless you step on it otherwise. This is a high quality 3D print. The thickness is 100% what it needs. It's reinforced on the back with a lot of different plastics. There is no real case flex that is going to bother you in any way, shape, or form. So just don't step on it, don't throw it, and you will be fine. But those were the leading questions on the Multisystem 2. And again, in my testing, this thing has just done everything I need it to. Nothing less than that. I couldn't recommend it if it did anything other than any other MiSTer FPGA build. So again, if you have any other questions, leave them down below. I'll probably do them in a news video. But the Multisystem 2 is up for pre-order, and you now have that extra information you need. But short of that, we're done. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.